up, everybody? Feel like a brand new person, but making the same old mistakes as the song goes, and that's the Chicago Sky coming out of the Olympic break. This is the CHGO Sky Podcast, a part of CHGO Sports and the ALLCITY Sports Network. Thank you for welcoming us in on your Tuesday afternoon. I'm Chris Pennant, along with the man, the myth, and the legend, Stephen PridGeon-Garner, the best X's and O's man this side of any river you can think of in the entire world, and your favorite flag football quarterbacks. Stephen, how you feel?
Doing good, man. We got a lot of basketball to speak to. Team is not in the best space at this moment, and they got the Atlanta Dream right on their heels, literally. So looking forward to speaking on all of that. And we also got some fun news as far as the team responding in real time to demands from Twitter. So I'm looking forward to it. But how you feeling, man?
I'm excited to get into that for certain. I'm excited to be inside in the AC with the typical August heat wave hitting Chicagoland. I had to play softball back-to-back days and that, which was, I mean, it's fun if you win and you're out sweating in the heat. It's less fun if you lose, but what can we do? The thunderstorm is supposed to be coming. It's supposed to have been coming for 3 days, but it's supposed to be coming.
I hear you on that. Yeah, playing in this weather is different because of the humidity and everything that comes with that. It's a different type of condition that you got to be in to persist in that for sure.
That's true, and I have not been in that condition since I was 23 years old, so it made it even worse. I'm the only guy that I know that doesn't get a haircut in the summertime when you're supposed to like keep your hair short. So I'm just making bad decisions. Hopefully I'll make some better ones on this podcast. Thank you for everybody who's listening in. As always, follow, subscribe, hit the like for us, for yourselves, for your peoples, for your fellow Sky fans, for everybody who wore a No More Sky Guy sticker, because it's your day. It's your day, which, as Steven said, we'll get into in this podcast. But also give it up one time for our man on the wheels of steel, Mr. Lawrence Benedetto Law, on the quick draw, who's got us in the booth today. Lawrence,
what is up?
What's really good?
Gentlemen, I was at the Sky game on Sunday, and it was amazing. I took my daughter. It was her first time ever going to a basketball game, and what a treat that was. I mean,
yeah, I mean, Dad of the Year for choosing that specific game. I mean, I don't think you could have done much better than that specific matchup.
I had noticed the schedule. I wanted it to be a weekend game. I wanted it to be a day game because, nighttime, I don't want her up late. And then the next day, she's a crazy person all day. So I thought, okay, 11 a.m. And I'm like, are you kidding me? The Aces are coming at 11 a.m. I want to see Plum Dog. That's my girl. I love her. She was feisty. I loved that. That was great. Sky were amazing, and we had amazing seats. I'll say this, though, too early. I feel like the game could have been at noon. I would have had more time to, get around. I wanted to get to the merch. I wanted to get my kid a shirt of some kind and didn't have time.
That is a perfect segue because our friend of the show, Maya Goldberg-Safir, has her Rough Notes Substack that she's been doing. And if you haven't checked it out, look up Maya G-S on Substack because she does these amazing post-game, it's like stream of consciousness type recaps.
Are you saying I'm stream of conscious right now? Because I am.
I mean, it's early for me. It's 1 o'clock. We're usually going like 2. It's a little.
Oh my God!
But I'm old, man. Listen. I haven't been doing the 7 a.m. wake up for a little bit, but Maya actually gets into that early game notes on right at the outset of her last Rough Notes, and I'll read this. If a Sky Aces game tips off at 11 a.m. in the morning on a Sunday, in other words, before a mega church service reaches the sermon and at least an hour before the frenzied peak of nearest local farmers market, that means that 1, the pregame press conference with Teresa Weatherspoon starts at 9:05 a.m., which means that 2, media credentials are available for pickup by 8:30 a.m., which means that 3, Chicago Sky Wintrust Arena staff have already arrived by, let's say, 8:15 a.m., which means that 4, the players are already warming up in uniform by 8 a.m., discarding their pregame tunnel fit coffee and makeup by 7:30 a.m., which means that their personal stylist must have left by 6:45 a.m., which means that everyone had breakfast and coffee and hopefully a morning date with Destiny by 6:30 a.m., though depending on the rhythms of one's bowels, they may have had to start drinking coffee at 6 a.m., which means that wake up is basically at 5 a.m. or earlier, and that the WNBA is wreaking absolute havoc on its own professionals because this pre-dawn start to a game reeks of AAU tournament traumas, dreams caught in your throat like crust in the corner of your eye, and overnight secrets you still can't shake, all arriving to the CHGO Sky versus Las Vegas Aces showdown on a blazingly hot August Sunday morning for what is inevitably going to be a strange and cracked open game leaking with emotional turbulence. So, Lawrence, I'm getting through all that.
I mean, you know, the early start time, obviously it's for TV, and the fact that the game was on big boy CBS, big girl CBS, like that's awesome, right? You know, now I don't know what aired at 1 p.m. on CBS, but like, was it that important? Could we bump that back to 2 o'clock and made this a noon game? You know, but like I was thinking that like this is our shot at the Aces because it's like 9 a.m. in their heads. I'm like, maybe we can, you know, maybe they won't be ready. And I, like first half, like Kelsey Plum looked way out of it. I think she was nervous because I was there, and she was just like, you know, there's Law, he's close. But unfortunately, she turned it up in the second half, and I don't know. It all worked out for them in the end. But it was such a great game.
Yeah, it was a good game. It was a winnable, very winnable game, and that's not something that you say often when you're going up against the Las Vegas Aces. No matter if it's midnight, no matter if they're on the road, no matter if they're at home, you don't usually say you had multiple winnable opportunities against that team. He also caught Asia Wilson on uncharacteristically inefficient night, where she took, I think, 13 field goal attempts in the first quarter. And that's not usually something that's good for you, because if she's shooting that much, that means she's making a lot more often than not. So the fact that you caught her even the slightest bit out of rhythm for 3.5 or 3 quarters and just weren't able to kind of bring it home. Again, valiant effort coming back down 13 in the last 5 minutes, but you have to figure out how to get that game, especially considering how Atlanta is on your heels.
I mean, I'll say this, like I was sitting directly across from the Aces bench. So when that fourth quarter started, tie game, and suddenly it's an 8-point run by the Aces, and I'm looking right across, and Asia's just sitting there on the bench, sitting comfortably. And I'm like, this game is OVA, because like if she's not playing and the Sky are down 8-0 already in this quarter, when she comes back, I mean, she's going to close out. I thought there was no chance. I mean, they're down 13. I thought there's no way this game's over. Sorry, Luis. So this game's over. Sorry they didn't win for you. And then, I mean, the Sky just turned it on. I mean, Steven, how did they do it?
Well, first thing is defense. You got to get stops when you're coming from a deficit, and you got to get them in rapid succession. They call them kills. You get 2-3 stops in a row, they count those as 1 kill. So you got to compile some kills on the way back up. You also got to score the basketball. And the Sky had one of their more successful 3-point exhibitions of the entire season against the Aces on Sunday as well. All of which, my reasoning behind saying you have to figure out how to win that game. We also have Kennedy Carter putting her cape on again, showing why she should have had the ball in her hands to end that game against the Connecticut Sun a few days prior to Sunday's game. And, she knocked down multiple threes, and she was just generally unguardable. And when you have that type of player, you want the ball in their hands because they put everybody else in position. The Aces had nobody that could stay in front of her, and that's been the same answer for the entire league this season with Kennedy. And, she showed why she is truly a top 10 player in the league this season so far. And that's a big part of it. And then the other big piece in it, Kamilla Cardoso, she has to get more attention for the attention to detail that she's shown this season, especially post-Olympic break. And also her teammates, particularly Lindsay Allen, figuring out how to get the ball to her consistently at the right time for her to be, optimized within their offense. So shout out to those pieces. And obviously Angel, 3 games in a row, 20+ rebounds. I don't care if you're talking about own rebounds or getting somebody else's rebounds. You can't even happenstance in terms of that walk into that. That's very intentional, and that speaks to her dominance.
Yeah, Camilla's been on a roll since the Olympic break ended, and I know we had that if we got that graphic up, but she has.
I'll be honest, I'm still working on it.
All good, all good. But she's honestly been on a roll, and you can tell not just from the statistical, you can tell from the eye test. Her finishing has gotten a lot better, a lot smoother. She's starting to extend her range with that baseline mid-range jump shot, and I don't think she's missed from outside of 10 feet so far since the Olympic break has come back, and she's shot at least 3 times. You know, it's a small sample size. A lot of what the Sky get her is going to be in the lane at the basket, but she's getting more comfortable stepping outside of that range, and it's looking very reminiscent of kind of like second or third year BG when she started stepping out and taking that jump shot. Honestly, at my age, it reminds me of like the bread and butter Patrick Ewing like baseline jumper. And honestly, we know how effective both of those players were for championship or championship contending teams. So if you get Kamilla Cardoso going like that, and you add in what the Sky have been making a point to do, which is get her touches early in the game in the first quarter, whether it's skip over the top or back to the basket post play, that's when she's been getting really effective. And so you see right here, before the break, she'd had a few games where she'd had 15, 12, 13 points, but mainly she was getting a lot of single-digit games, about the same, and only 1 assist per game. And then after the break, these last 5 games, her scoring average has gone up without a significant increase in minutes. Her field goal percentage has gone way up, and she's even getting more blocks, which culminated in a huge game on Sunday, as we saw David Brisson say, where she and Angel Reese were really making Asia work and pushed her into one of her more inefficient games of the entire season.
Yeah, that's been the big kind of hurdle for Kamilla, and just consistently being able to finish at the basket. She's starting to figure that part out. She's not just making wide open layups. She's finishing through contact, baby hooks, things of that nature. I think that's the big thing that she has to find consistency on, because I feel like when her usage starts to evolve, which we're slowly starting to see on the W level, her getting those touches in different contexts around the paint and being able to finish on consistency is going to help boost the Chicago Sky offense in general. And just to kind of provide some more statistical context to it all, she's had 5 attempts in the restricted area post-Olympic break, and she's making 3 points. She's making 3.6 per game. That's good for 69.2%. That is elite level efficiency. That's a number that she was hovering around on consistency in her collegiate career. And that's something that you hope to see sustain and translate to the W level on consistency in the manner in which we've seen post-Olympic break. And I think that in addition to the scoring and finishing around the basket, I think Camilla's also been able to make things happen in terms of screening more and pick and roll. We haven't seen it, like I said, on a prolific level in terms of volume, but we've seen hints of it with her and Kennedy working in pick and roll. And I mentioned earlier in the season, and I mentioned right out of the Olympic break, that's something that they're going to need to lean more into. We're starting to see it. It optimizes Kennedy because she's an extremely good passer out of pick and roll. And Kamilla has very soft hands and the ability to have gravity as a roller. So you get her positions and opportunities to score close to the basket a little bit easier, you start to see the results.
And I think that opens things up for spacing as well, and interplay between her and Angel. It's not going to be the high post, low post that we saw when the Sky had Candace and Emma Meeseman, because those two right now they're going to be ahead of where the rookies are in development. Like, they're probably top tier in WNBA history and being able to pass.
Probably. Those aliens.
Yeah, you're right
for sure.
But it opens up things that you could do with Angel and Kamilla on this floor at the same time. We'll get into that right after this first break, which we are proud to have from Shady Rays, of course, my favorite read of the entire segment. It's hot outside, so we know you got to look cool as you can in the August heat, and that is the best way to do that is with Shady Rays. The Shade's rated over 5 stars by over 300,000 people. you always have the guarantee that if your shades get lost or broken, you can send them in for replacement at little to no charge. And they always have the styles that you want. So if you want that Chicago Sky blue and gold, if you want it just in time for the new mascot to match with Sky the Lioness, you can get those from Shady Rays as well. And of course, the best deal of the season. If you use the code CHGO at checkout, you get 35% off their polarized sunglasses. Again, that's 35% off polarized sunglasses. That's why I love wearing Shady Rays. I hope that's why you love wearing Shady Rays. And so that's why we're giving you this deal. So try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Check them out online at shadyrays.com. And even in a tough stretch of basketball, it's good to choose chill. And the best way to do that is with Coors Light. Whether you're at Wintrust, whether you're at home, whether you're out hanging with your friends, watching the Sky games, choose chill. Look for those Rocky Mountains turning blue. Look for LL Cool J out the window of the locomotive. Look for all of that. And that's when you know you can choose chill with Coors Light. It's cold lager, cold filtered, and cold packaged for an extremely smoother finish. And it's mountain cold refreshment. Crisp and refreshing as the Colorado Rockies. So make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get it delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/CHGO Dunk. That's CoorsLight.com/CHGO Dunk. Celebrate responsibly when you choose chill. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Like we were saying, it's hard to say without seeing it with consistency, but the attention that Kamilla draws with her ability to not only catch the passes that are thrown into her, but draw the defense, that gravity that you make a point of talking about, Stephen. I feel like when the Sky are right, that will free up Angel to move towards the basket and take a short pass where she is going to have more success when she gets an open layup rather than a back to the basket where she's guarded or has one or two people coming after her on a double team. And that's why it's so important that Kamilla Cardoso's finishing is improved, because defenses have to concentrate on it even more than they already are.
Correct. And anytime you can get extra attention and eyes on anybody that's not named Kennedy Carter within your offense in the half court, that's a major bonus, a major plus. Talked about how it'd be difficult for the Sky to create for advantage creation in the half court, given the lack of spacing as a template for them that they have based off of the roster they have this season. One of the big ways to do it, like you mentioned, is with Kamilla being a screener and pick and roll, especially with Kennedy Carter. But I think the other big thing with that is not just having Kennedy and Kamilla work in the empty corner for pick and roll. Like, you can get some things out of that. We saw them go to that a bit against the Aces, whether it was an angle pick and roll where Kennedy's going towards the corner, or when Kennedy's going towards the middle in a little bit more traditional sense. I think that's important, but I think the next layer for them in carving out space is for them to start using Angel and one of the other three players in addition to Angel's space to the second side to screen, to cut, to do different things, to shapeshift the defense on the second side so they can't just load up on the help line. Because, again, the point is creating space for those two players to work in advantage. And if they can't consistently get that just off of the defensive coverage being conceded, then you have to find ways to be a little bit more nuanced with your spacing. I think they can get there. We've seen them kind of work with exit screens with Marina Mabry before Rachel Banham, and then naturally Rachel being involved in a lot of those actions in terms of movement as well. You have to kind of cycle through those a little bit more consistently. I think they can have that extra layer built to their offense. It's going to take a little bit of work, but I do think that there's been a template provided, and we've seen it used a little bit. I think they can get into it a lot more. And then the other big thing I think with Kamilla, I talked about this when she got drafted. She's not the traditional big in terms of operating close to the basket and only being comfortable within 5 feet of the basket. Kamilla has a little bit of a handle. I don't think this play happened intentionally, but there was a play, I believe, in the fourth quarter where she got the ball at the elbow, and Kennedy ended up setting a screen for her to floor off of. It was almost like an inverted pick and roll, 5-1 inverted pick and roll in a sense. Again, I don't think it was intentional, but Kamilla came off of that with all intent to get her feet dirty in the paint and get up and attempt at the basket. And that's not necessarily to say that she should be running 15, 25 pick and rolls a game. I think that's something that they can kind of get into as a counterpunch. But the big thing in that, me speaking to her skill, is the fact that she can also execute dribble handoffs. and she's comfortable with her handle, especially if she's not being pressured. So I think there's some things that they can get into in terms of dribble handoffs in the empty corner with any of the wings or Kennedy Carter or any of the guards, even for that matter, too.
It's going to be something if we see the Sky's offense take those steps to execute, screening, rescreening, second actions, especially on the weak side of plays, because that's something that we haven't seen. I know we have the rough return graphic that I wanted to bring up, but there was a stat that I actually saw when I was looking things up for today's show that was on WNBA.com. So if we can bring that up first, Lawrence, this was really interesting because we know what kind of team the Sky are and what they want to be at the start of the season. They wanted to attack on defense at the point of attack, try and get out into transition. We saw that with Marina Mabry was with the team. She wanted to throw those hit-ahead passes off misses, even off rebounds if they could, get out going in the fast break and try to get points off turnovers. Now, when we look at the entirety of or the season from the Olympic break to now, the team that's leading in points off of turnovers, percentage of points off of turnovers is the Storm, and then the Sun and the Sky are at the bottom of that. It's the same thing when you look at points off of fast breaks. The Sun are first in the league at 21% of their points come from fast break, and the Sky are, I think, second to last, tied with Atlanta, and only Indiana gets fewer points from fast breaks. So what I see a lot of people talking about is, they don't necessarily need, sometimes people say they don't necessarily need to score from the three-point arc to be successful, because they take so many they take so many shots in the paint, but they're not able to get a good amount of points in transition off of turnovers where they have less to worry about defensively, and at the free throw line where their percentage is near the bottom in the league too. So that's why the offense has to find some way to evolve. That's really what I've seen. And especially, if you take the blowouts against Phoenix out of the equation, these 3 of these 5 games have margins of less than 5 points at the very end of it. And those are the games where you need to have 2 or 3 things coming out of sideline out of bounds plays, coming out of timeouts. I know we're going to get into it, but I see a lot of horns off of 1-4 flat late in the shot clock, and the success rate just has not been there. And you need secondary, tertiary actions. The things that you talk about on a regular basis. That's what I want to see coming down to this home stretch.
Yeah, I think that talking about the Sky shot profile is, it's a very interesting topic. It's been that all season. I wrote about their 3-point shooting and the lack thereof on a league-wide perspective. I think it was like maybe the 3rd or 4th week of the regular season. Mm-hmm. It hasn't improved much, but I will mention, like I said in the opening with Lawrence, they had one of their best 3-point shooting games of the entire season against the Las Vegas Aces. That's not something that they can consistently bank on and sustain. We know that. So the thing is, for the Sky, you have to figure out how to be more efficient with your half-court offense, because I don't think you can't consistently rely on, we're going to get 15 or 20 points off turnovers every single game, because guess what? You go against a team like the Las Vegas Aces with Chelsea Gray, she's not forking the ball over that much. Asia Wilson, on her typical standard, is not going to be giving the ball up that much. You go against the New York Liberty, Courtney Vandersloot's not giving it up that much either. Same thing with Breanna Stewart. Same thing with the Connecticut Sun. These elite level teams are not going to concede you points or also allow for you to dominate in terms of field goal attempts per game. So you have to be more consistent in the things that you can consistently bank on and control. You're going to get X amount of possessions per game just based off of the league average numbers. You're going to have X amount of possessions. If we can execute on 60% of our possessions in the half court on offense, and then also get an additional 10 to 15 based off of the activity that we play with and aggression with our defensive template and process and principles, now you're starting to work with a little bit of a game plan to where you're giving yourself a little bit of wiggle room. And when you're speaking to these games being so close in terms of margin of victory or margin of defeat, that's the thing that can kind of tip the scale. Another big thing for the Sky that they have to cash in on in a much better manner, their second chance possessions. Angel Reese has gotten a lot of praise for being the best offensive rebounder in the WNBA and just generally being the best rebounder in the WNBA too. But speaking to the extra possessions, they don't score efficiently enough when she does get those extra possessions for them to have the weight and impact that you would desire for it to if you spoke to those numbers arbitrarily as just a template. If you're getting that many extra rebounds, you have to find a way in your process and how you go about scoring off of those to allow for that to have the impact that it should. Whether that's Angel being better and growing in her offensive rebounding and scoring off of those attempts, whether that be them instead of going right back up with it, deciding to reset and kind of playing in the advantage of the extra shot clock possession, you get that extra 14 seconds, playing within that to try to get a better look, a more efficient look. Whatever the case may be, there has to be a switch because these games are growing more meaningful by the day. I already talked about Atlanta being on their heels. They've been one of the best teams in the W post-Olympic break. They're not going to get any worse than they are at this moment in time. And they're already extremely good. They already have multiple all-star level talents on their roster. You got to figure it out, and you got to figure it out quickly.
That's straight to the point. I mean, Angel Reese still has the most blocked shot attempts in the league this year. She's at 70 after Sunday's game. But her offensive rebounding numbers are so prolific that you have to get something out of those. And something that I noticed in that game, too, they got early turnovers against Las Vegas, but they weren't able to capitalize. I think they had one where they went down on a fast break, 3-on-2 or 2-on-1, and ended up having a layup rim out after it looked like some decision-making got a bit like stalled on the doorstep. I think it was Kennedy Carter or either Lindsay Allen was coming down and was looking to pass to Kennedy or the other way around. And then Angel got a touch and it ended up being a layup that didn't convert. And Las Vegas went down and ended up getting points off of it. So it ended up being a 4-point swing. That a game that would have been 12-4 was 10-6 after that. And those are things that you have to capitalize on because they show up late. Let's go with that rough return graphic before we're coming close to our second break, because some of these stats are skewed. We talked about the 2 games against Phoenix where the Sky ended up losing one by 20 and then one by 18. So even that net rating is a little bit high because of those 2 games. But if you took that out of the equation, they're still 1-2. They lost by 2 to Connecticut and they lost by 2 to Las Vegas. These other numbers are pretty much what you would expect. The effective field goal percentage is last in the league, right? In that 5-game span. The 3-point attempt rate is down low. Kennedy Carter hit 3 for 4 on Sunday, and Rachel Banham had 3 for 5. The turnovers are not bad, but getting the points off of turnovers have been the struggle. Like only 14.8% of their points have come off turnovers. So when they've gotten the other team turned over, they haven't been able to get points out of it. And Angel, as we've seen, has come out with some prolific, absolutely prolific rebounding games. But her field goal percentage has dropped off from where it was in July. She was over 40%. Right now, it's just above 30. And her true shooting percentage is down too. She's missed a good amount at the free throw line. I know Rob Antal said Angel's true shooting percentage has to get better next year, and it definitely does, and I'm expecting to see it. But even whether the Sky make the playoffs or not, every game is development for Angel, for Kamilla, for Kennedy even, who's still only a couple of years into her career. You want to see improvements there, but I want to see improvements from the coaching staff and how they're putting the players in position to succeed.
Yeah, that is extremely important because you can say the players need to do this, that, and the third. But I harken back to that end of that game against the Connecticut Sun when Kennedy's not getting the ball on offense. In the game, not unlike the game against the Las Vegas Aces, that they had multiple opportunities to win. You can only blame the players so much. I think it gets to a certain point to where it's now on the coaching staff, and I'm not pointing at any specific individual on the coaching staff. I'm speaking generally. They have to be better at understanding, okay, this player needs to do this, so we need to tweak this in terms of this player's approach and process to get the absolute most out of the roster that we have. And I'm saying that because if we're coming on this episode and we're speaking to the Chicago Sky winning a game against the Connecticut Sun on the road and then coming home to Chicago and winning a game against the reigning champion, back-to-back champ Las Vegas Aces, the complete discourse about the team looks completely different. Atlanta lost their last 2 games. Yes, Atlanta lost their last 2 games, so that gives you some separation. You also have the tiebreaker over Atlanta as well. In addition to that, things look a whole lot different in terms of all of these different things that we're speaking to. But I do think that some of the issues we're seeing is just because they need a little bit of a tweak in their process in terms of some of the things that they're doing in the half court. Obviously, you need impact in terms of execution of game plan. I won't say that I think that the execution of game plan has been absolutely to a T. The players can certainly be better, but I don't think that when you get to this point where the offense has been such a hurdle for the team, they gotta get it together in terms of their general process. It's all hands on deck for that.
We're going to come right back after a word from our sponsors here. We're going to bring in a special guest to talk about everything that we've discussed and more, including the new Mascot news. Let's take a moment to thank our sponsor, Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. They are here to elevate your summer. They are your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping. They have a wide variety of selection with over 100 different strains to choose from with easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Whether you're as far south as Champaign or as far north as South Beloit, just below the border in Wisconsin, there's a Sunnyside location for you. And here for the summer, as we've talked about it all year long, hopefully everybody who went out to the Kickoff Classic at Cog Hill #2 was able to pick up the Good News Tea Time disposable vape. So that was a perfect flavor for the golf course. And just in time for now Riot Fest, Free Spirit vapes and cartridges are all new from Good News with a lush mango flavor. These vapes are perfect for tapping into your flower power. So you can visit sunnyside.shop for bright buys every single day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases by using the code HICHGO at the checkout to qualify. That's high CHGO. Exclusions do apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary bright buys every single day, only for ages 21 and over or Illinois medical card holders. And for CHGO, if you haven't known, we got new merchandise, and the CHGO Locker has a new site, and it's coming brick and mortar for you. It's coming very soon. So check them out online at store.allcitynetwork.com. You can get all the All City merch. You can get all the new CHGO sports merch. You can get some DLLS merch for our new outlet that just opened down south in Dallas. Anything that you want that's available from Phoenix, Philly, or Denver, it will be there for you at store.allcitynetwork.com. And we've got things coming up for the takeover this Friday for the Chicago Fire as Inter Miami comes to town. I've heard some discourse that Messi might be playing, he might not be playing, but just for the chance to be able to see Lionel Messi in person, head out to Soldier Field and join up with the CHGO Fire crew for the takeover there. Meet up pregame and a Jason Derulo post-game concert. And if you can't make the trip with the CHGO Bears crew to London in October, there's a few packages remaining. Check them out in Phoenix, Arizona, taking on the Cardinals on November 3rd. That'll be Caleb Williams versus Kyler Murray with a 3-night stay at a 4-star Phoenix hotel, Q&A with Bears alumni, an all-inclusive tailgate party, round-trip transportation to and from the game, and an upper-level game ticket. Reserve your spot at the party at truefantravel.com. Now limited spots available. They're still available. Check them out. And, of course, the Cubs have a takeover on September 6th against the Yankees. It's nearly sold out, so get those tickets in. We've got a lot coming for you with the CHGO Sports Crew. And, of course, when you sign up to be a diehard, you get 20% off events, premium written content for all members at allchgo.com, including from our own Stephen PridGeon-Garner, and a free shirt when you become a member. So check it out. We got a lot coming for you. CHGO diehards going up. All right, let's welcome in, if we can, our guest today. I know that
Nora's not here yet, so I'll let you know.
Nora's not in yet?
No.
Look at that. Rugby players run so fast, so long, and then are just a little bit behind. Stephen, let's check out that Steph No tweet that you had, because that was good. Talking about Angels finishing at the rim. It's something that we've talked about all year long, like adjusting her shooting motion or figuring out a different way to be crafty. And honestly, I thought we saw a lot of that in July, where she had that conversation in-game and post-game with Tina Charles, and her finishing improved by a wide margin. But still right now, she takes the most shots at the rim and shoots the lowest percentage by a fairly wide margin. And you see the other players on there, Aaliyah Boston, Dearica Hamby, who take a similar amount of shots but are above 60% in terms of their field goal percentage. What's Angel need to do on this, man?
I'll preface first by saying shout out to Steph No. If you don't know him, his Twitter handle is right there. It's literally his name, Steph, STEPHNOH. Follow him for good basketball content, especially with the Chicago Bulls, as well as obviously with the WNBA, as you can see from this this graphic here. And I'll also preface with saying that you need to make sure that you are supporting the work that you desire to see more of. And Steph is definitely somebody for me. And that's the best way to support loudly. Support as loudly as you do for your favorite musician or favorite artist or favorite sports team. I'll just kind of leave it at that. I could dive a lot more into it, but give more attention to the things that you desire to see more rather than the things that you don't. That's the best way to clean up the discourse space around this jewel of ours, this basketball. That being said, Steph hammered it home here. He actually had written content accompanied that this graphic was accompanied by. Check that out on the sportingnews.com. But yes, how can Angel be better? I think it's just going to be a natural progression. Her kind of growing into her own game a little bit more. Definitely getting to see more film and do more refined and detail-oriented skill development as she has already started to. We've already seen subtle results. I think the more she kind of gets her feet wet with that, the more impactful she'll become. And then I also think the next step in it is that she won't, when she gets to her optimized level, she won't be consistently going up with it every single time she grabs an offensive rebound. I think she'll kind of have a little better discernment in terms of, okay, I just grabbed this one. I might have missed the first one, and now the defender's still already right there with me. So I just grabbed an extra possession in addition to the first extra. Let me kind of bring this back out, get it to Kennedy, and let her work in the advantage, which typically becomes a defense rotating out to a guard that's on the perimeter. And that gives them a closeout to kind of attack. So I think just kind of being a little bit more aware, having a little bit better discernment with that, I think the production and efficiency will grow. And then the last thing, understanding how to play those angles off the backboard a little bit more too. That's not something that is kind of organic for most people. It's going to be something that comes with time for Angel. She already is very ambidextrous, as we've spoken to and hammered home all season long. I think when she really gets a feel for playing the different angles on the glass with the mic and drill, like players like Kyrie Irving have really kind of brought back to fame as it was back in the 90s and 80s. I think once she kind of gets a better feel for that and she really adds that to her bag, Angel's going to be a 25-plus point per game scorer. She's probably going to score 15 to 18 points from the field. The rest will come from the free throw line and offensive rebounds. And transition also.
Yeah, because I know you talked about her handle in the open floor. Like, it's still developing, but it's there. She can lead the break. She can bring the ball up the floor and make good decisions with it. But a lot of that will come in time. And so that's why I'm looking forward to development, because she has said that she wants to make the playoffs. Like, she's more concerned with the playoff race than the Rookie of the Year race. And there'll be a fight for the Sky to make the playoffs. Let's bring in our guest now. She is the manager of strategic planning and data for Chicago Public Schools. Shout out to CPS.
Yes. Happy second day of school.
That's crazy.
I know. Summer's over.
Also, the head coach of women's rugby at the University of Chicago, where they won the 2022 Small Schools Rugby Sevens, and a graduate of Reed College in Portland and of the University of Chicago, and the owner, I don't know what else you say, owner or future owner, of Babe's Sports Bar that's coming out. Nora McConnell Johnson is on the show with us. Welcome, Nora. How you feeling?
Hi, what's up? Good to be here.
Definitely good to have you. So we're going to talk about this right here, the No More Sky Guy campaign. Yes, I got a sticker at a game with the announcement that came very suddenly this week that the Sky had picked chosen a new mascot, Sky the Lioness. Which I already have my thoughts. I think this photo shoot was great in itself, using such an iconic image of the city.
Yes.
And also coming to fruition, the campaign that a lot of people had jumped on, that they wanted to see a new mascot for the Sky. So I wanted to bring you on because I know from my friend, as I said, Maya, our colleague, that you were kind of spearheading this whole thing. How did that come about? What did you hear from fans? What about you yourself didn't like about Sky Guy, and what were people looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I So I started this campaign as like a bit of a joke. Like I'm opening Babe Sports Bar, which is a women's sports bar in Chicago. We're going to be in Humboldt Park on Armitage, right by Parsons. Opening in January, hopefully. And so I have been really like making a lot of stickers because of that. And I keep getting like free sticker promos. And so I've just been making like fun stickers for myself. I started going to Sky Games as a season ticket holder this year. I've been to them before, but actually bought season tickets this year. So I was going all the time. And I was like, I want a water bottle that looks cute, but Sky doesn't have good merch. I'm bringing a water bottle to the game. Let me make some cute Sky stickers. And then I'm on this like little sticker sheet I made. There was extra space, and I hate Sky Guy. I always have, big hater. And so I just was like, let me just add a little No More Sky Guy sticker. I just whipped it up, put it on the sticker sheet, and I started handing out the sticker sheets, and people were really reacting to that specific little sticker on it. And it turned out that I was not the only one harboring these really negative feelings about that mid mascot. And so I started to make those stickers that you have. I like pulled out more free promo codes and started making more just like pure No More Sky Guy stickers. And just like it was like honestly sort of like a gag. Like I was like, he sucks. We need to like get rid of him. I don't know that these stickers will really like do much, but at the very least we can start to like identify each other. So I was passing them out. People really liked them. I had to make a lot more. I like made 100 for the first game I brought them to, and I ran out immediately. And then I was like, we probably got to really organize here. So I just made the Instagram. It turns out that of course, I'm not the first person to have this idea. And this is actually there've been iterations of this movement over the years. I think it was good timing that we had this campaign come out right as Sky was happening. Sky, the lioness, was happening. But yeah, I'm happy that Sky Guy is gone. Though I was at the game on Sunday and everything was normal. Sky Guy was like doing his dunks and like going around like being weird in the crowd. So I was like, you guys could have announced this, like you could have made some scene that he was like, it was his last game. It just feels, I have a friends who have they are the Flagrant magazine podcast, Helpside Pod, and they have coined chronic bag fumbleitis for the Sky team, which like literally, what are y'all doing? Like you had so many opportunities to hype this up. You could have like teased it at the game. You have the big game night game on Wednesday, could have announced it. I'm getting ahead of probably where you want to go with this, but yeah, so that's how I came to No More Sky Guy.
I don't know, Stephen, how you feel necessarily about Sky Guy. I did notice that when the dunker, the artistic dunkers would come out, he would miss a lot of alley-oops off the backboard. So that was really
he's not even good at it.
Beef with him. Like his dunk percentage was pretty far down. But I don't know, Stephen, if you've had the opportunity to go to more games than I have this season. Have you had any thoughts one way or the other about Sky Guy in terms of just like the mascots we have in the city?
I'll broaden it and keep it specific to Sky Guy's competition directly with the W. There's not a mascot that is more athletic than Sky Guy was. And I do think that there is a certain entertainment value factor that comes with having again, the person that's in the actual mascot's costume, not the actual, you get what I'm saying. I think that there's value in having that because I think that's an advantage that other teams just don't have. This is behind the scenes. I had the opportunity to watch the mascots warm up with half of their mascot costumes on at All-Star this past year, back in July. And naturally, I'm watching Sky Guy because of, obviously, and he stands out. For one, because of his athletic build. I don't know Sky Guy personally, the person that's in the costume, but I can tell that he has some background in athletics, whether it was gymnastics or something along the lines of that. And just watching them warm up for everything that they were doing routine-wise for All-Star break at the halftime show and things like that. Sky Guy was jumping, and his head was at like the top of the shot clock. Whew.
Okay,
everybody else was like barely, yes, correct. Yes. No, I wouldn't even say apologist. I'm just trying to give the other side so you're not bagging on them too much.
Mm-hmm. Do we think Stephen is Sky Guy? Is that possible? Is
that what's going on here?
There's not enough time in the day. I don't have enough.
He's so athletic.
Nah. But my point in bringing that up is just that it's a unique thing. So now the question at hand is going to be, what can Sky the Lioness do to make herself unique amongst the WNBA mascot competition? We clearly know what the advantage was with Sky Guy. We talked about the dunk percentage. That is what it is. I think I can kind of give him a mulligan when you're that athletic in comparison to your competition.
That's his one job, though.
I mean, that's not his one job. That's one of the things that he brings to the table.
Wave
Though.
the
I will
flag.
say
he
that
did
for
wave
sure.
the flag. He waved the
For
flag.
sure.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah. So I'm just
I'm a Sky
curious.
Guy hater, to be clear.
I see. I'm just curious what's going to be the distinguishing factor with Sky the Lioness. I think they did a good job with the name. I think having it be of the female variety also makes a whole lot of sense, given that the sport is literally a women's sport. I think that makes a lot of sense. If it shows attention to detail, which is not always there with the W still for whatever reason. So I love that part. Now I'm just kind of paying attention to what is it going to look like with those two in tandem at Wintrust. And then eventually when Sky is by herself, I'm curious what the distinguishing factor is going to be.
You think they're going to be together?
Well, they said in the promo that they're going to be kind of both be at games until later in the season. Yeah. So until Sky Guys are officially gone, we're not going to really get a good feel for a Sky individually. So I'm very curious how that comes about and what comes from it.
I want to send him off in like a Viking funeral, like put him on a little boat, Lake Michigan, light it, send it off. See ya.
I want it to be like Poochie from The Simpsons. I just want him to just
go no, with the storyboard frame.
Retire his jersey to the rafters.
I was gonna say, Nora, the way you were talking, it's like you wanted security to carry him out on Sunday as soon as they put the word out.
That'd be great. Here's my thing. It's a women's team. This is like a guy. The story of Sky Guy is that he's like the youngest brother of like athletic sisters who are good at basketball. He wasn't good at basketball, so he decided to like cheer them on. And it's just like, so actually his athleticness is like shocking based on that story. And then I would just say that like, this might not be super family friendly, but it's a dude in the suit and he does not wear either a cup or a jockstrap. So we are like very aggressively reminded of the fact that there's a dude in that suit. It's like we're at a women's, like many of us are gay women. Like it just feels like insulting to the audience that is there to see that. It feels wrong in a lot of ways, for a lot of reasons and ways.
I see that's a whole different layer that I was not.
Yes, there have been plenty of people who have been noticing that. Let me tell you. Then once you see it, you can't unsee it. Listen,
I don't know how hot it is in those costumes. So I figure the less you have to wear inside the costume might be a little bit more. Not all those costumes have fans inside. The dude who's the gorilla for the Suns, I don't know how he does it. Benny the Bull, I don't know how they do it.
Occupational hazard, yeah, for sure. Tough, yeah.
But I want to see what this, because we have a good comp for this already when the New York Liberty decided to bring in their new mascot for the 25th anniversary, and they went from Maddie, who had been their mascot since the inception of the team, to Ellie the Elephant, which they had a good description online on their website about how it ties into the history of the city, both them coming back from Westchester to New York City proper, and specifically to Brooklyn, like to show the integrity of the Brooklyn Bridge. They marched elephants across it as a stunt. She also is named Ellie after Ellis Island, so like immigrants coming into the city and what New York used to be. And they've integrated her so well into their marketing, both with schedule announcements, theme nights, when they have special guests at games, that she's become so recognizable and so like intrinsic to the fabric of the team already that a lot of people identify with Ellie as well as much as they do the team. And they've made a good point about bringing her out into specific neighborhoods, specific places, specific businesses that if we're not in the previously like represented in team program merchandise, they wanted to make a point of it. Like they wanted to make Ellie New York City, but also Brooklyn and like Bed-Stuy, Crown Heights, all of that. So that's what I want to see with Sky, the Lioness. Like Stephen, kind of what we talked about when Izzy Harrison came to the team. Like bring Sky out to Bronzeville, bring Sky out to Morgan Park, bring Sky out to Roseland, bring Sky out to like Gage Park, West Lawn, all these places like Uptown, Rogers Park, Andersonville, where you have people coming to these games. Put her on the CTA, boy. Like
Yes.
That's this kind of stuff.
Get her on the green line. Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's Ellie. Ellie is such a great reflection of and celebration of the culture that she comes from. Also important to note that Ellie, the like 3 creatives behind Ellie were 3 Black women. And like, you can see that it's like represented in how she like both presents herself, how she interacts with like the story of her Telfar bag. Like Ellie is cool, which is like weird to say about a mascot because it's like a human in a furry suit, but Ellie is actually cool. Sky, are you about to ask me my opinion on Sky the Lion? Because I have many.
It's new. I think within everything that we've seen so far, and Stephen, I want to hear you on this too. We talked about the Sky needing to not just have a success on the court, but make sure that they were making the right moves. We saw the news come out about the practice space. We've seen them get the partnerships. Stephen, you posted that they've got new sponsorships already on display at Wintrust Arena, that they're making a point of this, like trying to solidify themselves within the fabric of Chicago sports, Chicago businesses. Like, how does this help that along? For Nora, first from you, and then from Stephen.
Yeah, well, I think that there's so much opportunity, and I like, I'm a hater, but with like hope in my heart. Like, I do think that like this can be positive for us. I think that one of the comment section on the rollout, I agree with. Also, like the rollout was not done well. One of my frustrations is I love this guy. Like, I love the team. I love Teaspoon. Our players are incredible. Like, we have, I think of like the stacked rosters in the W. Our roster has some of the most inspiring stories about the players themselves. Like we play scrappy. We're young. Like, we have a lot of development to do, but like there's so much potential there. And I think like Kalia wants to come back. Like, I think that we have like a really cool future ahead of us. The franchise and the back office is not keeping up with that. Like, it feels so frustrating to me. You can see it in the merch. Like and this is a W issue too, but you can see it in the merch. You can see it in game day. It's not a Sky stadium. I know we share it, but like we could at least deck it out, like make it very Sky oriented during the season. I just feel like the back office is missing opportunities a lot that don't do justice to the miracles and magic that's happening on the actual team and in the coaching staff. But the Lioness, I think like there are great opportunities. I'm loving the comments about how like Sky is the stud and Ellie is the femme. Like, lean into that. I would love to see Sky with a little septum piercing. I would love to see the shoes. What are those yellow shoes? Like, get her some cool shoes, get her a little accessory, make her head fur match her body fur. Like, I think there are places we can start to really like see some improvements.
Stephen, like I said to you, like, how does this fit in the marketing for the future?
Yeah, I like the background story for Sky in terms of being a lioness, and obviously the context with Chicago that comes with that. One of my first things that I'm looking for, kind of like I spoke with about Sky Guy, the distinguishing factors. We know that, especially with the creation story and the ties with Ellie the elephant. From my betting odds, Ellie is the second best mascot in all of sports to the one and only Benny the Bull. I don't think that Benny can be replaced at the top of that hill. He can potentially be caught up to, but that's going to take decades of dominance. And Ellie is just scratching the surface and laying her foundation. So we'll revisit this in about 15 to 16 years. The Liberty also have to win multiple championships in that window too. So they're going to be caught up to task in addition to Ellie before we can have a conversation about GO mascots. Anybody that wants to holler at me, my Twitter handle is StayTrueS.3. We can talk mascots all day. Let's do it. I'm not falling off the Benny Hill. I can't do it. That being said, though, with Sky, I mentioned the lioness part. The person that's in there has to be Chicago. We talked about Ellie representing New York extremely well, from the dancing to the TikTok things that are going on with social media in general. The personality that's given, which is hard to give personality when you can't see a face or hear a voice. But Ellie's presence is very loud. And it's integrated with the community sense of basketball with the New York Liberty. How is Sky going to integrate herself into the Chicago community? In arena at Wintrust, in the communities around Chicago, specifically on the South Side, it feels like there's been entirely too much attention given with the Sky and everything North Side related. There's this other side of the city that's more often than not supporting the team more than any other capacity of the city out south. You have to find a way to integrate that mascot into the community, get those people to the games, and show them the love and attention that they've already been pouring into the team in terms of investing. I think that's another big thing I'm going to be looking at. And then the other big thing for me is the in-arena interactions. I talked about everything that Ellie is. You see Ellie on the court. You see referees watching Ellie during timeouts when they have another job to do.
Did you see her get pulled? She got pulled away yesterday when they got a tech.
Yes, these are the things that I'm speaking to. That's a very New York thing. I feel like we may have seen Ellie and Tim's at one point, which there's nothing more New York than that. There are so many examples of Chicago that can be cycled through. Sky has to check those boxes off. This is Chicago. Let's not forget all of the business, all of the logistics. This is Chicago. You have to represent this city in a big way or not at all. There's no in between there. They have a tall task ahead of them. I think they did a good job in choosing the Lioness, like I spoke to. The name was easy. That was a layup too. Now it's about hitting the home runs and grand slams within all of that. They hit a single, they hit a double. Now you got to bring everything home multiple times. And I'm looking forward to seeing them execute this plan, because this definitely felt like it came in a rushed manner rather than being strategically planned out. And that's kind of the full circle thing for me there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I agree with the sentiments that we got from you, Nora, Stephen, the same. And we saw Zach Noth in the chat about this being kind of another meh for the franchise. And so you got to capitalize. Like, if you have those moments, you got to figure out, okay, you know, we didn't do as well as we could here, but let's make sure that we cycle up, like we go up on that trajectory, so that we know, so that people not only know this is what we're trying to do on the court, but this is what we have, this is what we're bringing to you in your neighborhood. This is what we're bringing to you where you live. This is what's going to make you be like dedicated to us as a fan, as a supporter. And I think it feels like it's coming. It's there. It feels like the sentiment is there, like the want and the desire is there.
Yeah, they're getting the message.
The follow through has been lacking in some ways. And I know some of that is you're coming back to the court, what we want to see in terms of closing games out. And this is an important stretch of games coming up. They've got the Mystics coming into town tomorrow. That all-important clash with the Fever, who are now 2.5 games ahead of the team. The Fever come in on Friday. Caitlin Clark's been playing better. Aaliyah Boston's adjusted her game to some degree. And the Fever have been winning. They've been pulling ahead for that 7th spot. Then the Sky go on the road against Minnesota on a matinee game next Sunday, and then back to Las Vegas on Tuesday. So an important few stretch of games. What are you looking forward to see from these next 4? Stephen first, and then Nora.
The offense. You got to score. You got to score. You have to score in the half court. You have to score when teams aren't presenting you with an advantage from turnovers. You have to be able to control the controllables better. You got to be better in clutch moments. You got to play to your identity, which the identity on offense is Kennedy Carter at this moment. And not just isolation, though. That's the thing. You have to be a little bit more nuanced in her usage. Can you get her off of more handoffs? Can you get her with more dynamic touches as far as that goes? Can you get her in more pick and roll with Kamilla? And like we talked about in the opening, Chris, space the floor on the second side to where defenses aren't just collapsing the court on them. Give them a little bit of space to work with. Those are the things that I'm looking for. Other big thing is keep feeding Kamilla. Keep feeding her. She is doing everything she needs to in terms of seals, timely seals, stealing off of when they're screening for her around the post area. Get her the basketball, invert your offense some, and that's going to allow for you to kind of play to the defense a little bit more. The biggest thing for the Sky is when they can finally get Kamilla to get the touches she needs to start getting double teams, and now they can play in rotation off of that. They can't get there if they're not giving her the ball. She only had 3 shots in the first half against the Aces. That's just unacceptable. She should be getting up 5 shots per quarter, in my honest opinion. And I think if she can get there and they get there in their process, they can take the steps they need to. And against a team like Minnesota in particular, you're not going to be able to outplay their guards. They're just too good in process. But the advantage is going to come in the paint. You don't draft Kamilla with the top pick that you have in this draft just to have her be an ancillary player. No, she's supposed to be a piece you're dictating with. She's directly aligned with your identity. She's playing her best basketball of her professional career. You have to start leaning into that more.
Nora, you said you're going to be up at Target Center for that Lynx game, and that's my historical, like the team that I always want us to beat. What are you looking forward to seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Minnesota. I grew up watching the Lynx, so I'm very excited to see what that looks like. I think that I was at the first game back after the Olympic break when we got totally just wiped by the Mercury. And I think we were at a disadvantage. A lot of those players had been playing together and they've been just not even having a break. They've been playing at the Olympics. I think that we are trying to find our stride a little bit. I think that we have the formula just needs to be worked out. I feel like we have so much talent. Dana, I love when Dana's on fire. I love to see her. I love Diamond. We have so much bench talent, but I think that the way that they're interacting with each other right now is not fully vibing. Rachel, I'm excited for Rachel. I want to see her shine. She did not have a good game in the most recent, Sunday game. I've also loved seeing Kamilla. You can see her confidence growing. It's clear that she's so young. It's so hard so easy to forget that she and Angel are both barely out of their teens, and she's got a lot of weight on her shoulders, and we're counting on her for a lot, and she's stepping up to the plate a lot. And I think seeing that more is really exciting. I think just figuring out how to stay in the game for the last quarter and a half is really what I want to see. We've had some great stretches of opening strong, and then we just sort of fall apart in a way that it's hard to watch, and you can see them sort of collapsing on each other. But yeah, it's hard to watch. So I want to see them figure out that formula.
That Minnesota game would be a great time to do it because they have a lot of veterans. They have players who have gelled so well together. I mean, we know the story of how Courtney Williams and Alana Smith have been just worked so well with each other. And so in that Minnesota game where you look at this guy who had an 8-point lead on Connecticut with 4 minutes to go and lost that, came back from a large deficit against Las Vegas, ended up losing in the final possession. Both those games pretty much came down to the last possession. If you get up or get down on Minnesota, the comeback can't be just it. If you find a way to finish against an experienced team with one of the best coaches in league history relatively, that's a game that you can look back towards. Whether you make the playoffs or not, that's a game you look back at and say, okay, we finished it. We finally got it going. Nora, I saw that you might have to Amscray from your current location. So I want to thank you for coming onto the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm sorry to be such a hater about Sky Guy. I love that we see the merit in him. I really appreciate it. I just, I want the best for women's sports, and I think we deserve it. And I just can't wait to see that happen.
I mean, it was cool. I wasn't expecting to have that crossfire set up with Stephen. I didn't ask him what his opinions was. So I think it made for a more organic discussion on it. But definitely, I'm excited to see Babes when it opens. Babe Didrikson Zaharias is one of my favorite athletes that I've looked up to in terms of just people who could play everything, along with Althea Gibson, two of the people I always look back to. I want to try this out. So follow Babes in Chicago on Instagram. Look forward to the opening, hopefully coming early in 2025. And as always, look out for Nora McConnell Johnson at Sky Home Games. Nora, thanks once again for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for covering it. Nice to talk to y'all.
Sure.
Bye.
Stephen, man, I saw a couple things that I want to just throw up before we close out officially. Bob Jones said next season the Sky will be playing in standing room only Bulls Arena. Imagine that, the Sky playing at United Center. We've already seen the Sun and the Fever play at TD Garden. The Sky playing the Mystics at Capital One Arena. How feasible do you think it is that the Sky could play at UC next year?
I don't know logistics wise how feasible it is, but I think sensically it makes entirely too much sense. Angel Reese's box office, she can say it as much as she wants, but she shows it, and her following says it more loudly than she ever could in terms of if she wanted to go that route, which she hardly ever does. She's you have to pour into a really just special type of player that you have that has that type of gravity, especially again context wise. This is Chicago. This is not I don't want to disrespect any other smaller markets, because I'm not specific to any given market, but Chicago is Chicago. It's a top 3 city in the I'll honestly say in the world. I haven't traveled the world, but all accounts that I've read and heard from people that have, Chicago's always in that conversation. You have to treat it as such. And I think that with Angel having that type of gravity in this type of city, it has to be poured into. And also, in addition to Angel, Kamilla and everything that comes from the South Carolina lineage of players over the last 5 or 7 years pertaining to Dawn Staley, those players have a following as well. Their fans come and travel. There were a ton of South Carolina fans naturally there to see Asia Wilson on Sunday, but they were also there very loudly cheering for Kamilla Cardoso as well. And their back and forth exchanges where Kamilla was getting blocks. I think she had 5 blocks on Asia on Sunday. Those led to some fun interactions with the crowd. You can kind of see people saying, "Oh, okay, you know, this, that, and the third." But you have to pour into that type of following. Get those players into the United Center. But the big piece is to have their own. They need their own arena. That team needs their own arena. First step is obviously practice facility. That sounds like it's in progress. We hope to see results in the next year or two at worst, but they need their own arena. And I think if you're bridging a gap, getting into your own arena by first starting with the United Center, I think that's a good thing in process.
That's a great point, because when you get games like that and you see what can be done with how much that team can draw, like what you're seeing with the Sun, what you're seeing with the Mystics, hopefully when they get back on their footing with Shakira Austin and Brittany Sykes and Aaliyah Edwards, who's had a good rookie campaign, I think the owners of these other teams see, okay, we can utilize this. We can bring these teams into their own space, and they're still going to draw. They're still going to sell out if we put a good product on the floor. And as we talked about so much, if we market well to the city. We got to use that. This is Chicago. That might be a good thing for the next round of CHGO Sky merch, because I think sometimes people forget.
I know people forget. People definitely forget. Like, Chicago culture is not loud and heavily bitten off of in terms of looking at the entire world, yet alone the Western Hemisphere. Like, come on now. This is Chicago. Let's not forget.
And I think sometimes people still do. But yeah, I want to see what that looks like. I think we're talking a lot about the future on this broadcast, but I mean, there's still things to come up soon. The playoffs are not out of reach at all. The Sky is still in the 8th spot, and it's going to come down to these last few weeks. So we appreciate you tuning in with us. Continue to do so. We will see you every Tuesday until the end of the season, whether that's before the playoffs or afterwards. So lock in with us every Tuesday afternoon. Follow our man, Stephen PridGeon-Garner at StateUS.3 on Twitter and at Stephen PridGeon-Garner 3 on YouTube to catch all his breakdowns. You can also catch him with PHNX Mercury. Erica Day, we saw you in the chat. Love to have you on, Erica. And on the most recent episode of Take That for Data with Gerald Bourget and the Phoenix Suns broadcast, talking about the benefits of Tyus Jones. So check out all of Stephen's work. He's giving it to you like Currency did back in 2012, nonstop. Y'all gotta get out there and check it out, because he's gonna keep giving you this work. Like, I forgot the rapper's name. I got lost. So let's just leave that to the side. He's keep giving y'all his work. Don't take it for granted. Stephen, you got anything coming out very soon?
Nothing specific in the works. Got games coming up in rapid succession right now, so I want to stay current in terms of keeping tabs. But I'll just say keep watching Michaela Onyenwere. She continues to do the things that the team needs her to do on the margins on offense, knocking down threes above the break and in the corner, screening, cutting, posting up at times, grabbing some rebounds on the offensive glass too, and then defensively she's just doing everything under the sun. Just keep an eye on her. She's making some loud things happen, non-box score related, and her efficiency in terms of the shooting, it does show up on the box score is matching. And then also Lindsey Allen. She just continues to be the steady hand that this team needed at the point guard position. She's unlocked Kennedy Carter. She's starting to help unlock Kamilla as well, and also Angel. Pay close attention to those two players with that new starting 5 that's out there.
Keep an eye out. We got games coming up tomorrow and this Friday. If we don't get out to the arena, lock in with us on Twitter at CHGO_Sky. You can find me, Chris Pennant, at Quandary Kitten. That's KWANDARY Kitten. And our man on the wheels of steel, Lawrence Benedetto, is at Law on the Draw. Thank you to Lawrence for coming on. Thank you once again to Nora McConnell Johnson. Thank you to all of you who came with us in the chat. Hit the like and subscribe. Check out the podcast wherever podcasts are sold. And thank everybody for spending part of your afternoon with us. This is the CHGO Sky Podcast, part of CHGO Sports and the All-City Sports Network. Till next time, folks, be good, do great things, and keep your head above the clouds.
all silly like the mayor.